Hey everyone, Gigi here with Spirit Readings. As you can see, I moved the spirit board so I could pull out this bad boy here, the Element Encyclopedia of 5,000 Spells. This is going to be our first Witchy Wednesday segment. There's a lot of information in here. There's a lot of knowledge here. This is the ultimate reference book for the magical arts. Judika, hopefully I'm saying that right. You guys know me in words and names. Illes, or goodness gracious, you guys, struggle bus in full effect. So there's many different parts to this. Warning, the Element Encyclopedia of 5,000 Spells contains an overview of magical spells. Sorry, my voice, you guys. Of magical spells and practices from a multitude of eras, traditions, and places. It is intended as an inclusive encyclopedia and reference book. Many of the spells contained within these pages are not to be used and should not be reproduced. Some involve dangerous, potentially harmful, and deadly poisonous botanicals. Ooh, okay. So the author and the publisher strongly advise against using any spells containing noxious substances or poisonous botanicals or spells containing blood, the use of which could result in the transmission of blood-borne diseases which may be fatal. These spells are only reproduced here to provide a historical context. Any reader uses the spells entirely at their own risk, and the author and publisher accept no liability if the spells do not have the desired effect or if adverse effects are caused. And this book is not suitable for children. Okay, many people contributed here. So, you know, I think we'll go through some like teaching segments before we get down to the spells, but you guys leave me ideas of some spells that you may like to see, and eventually we will get there, you know. I like to learn, and I believe it's important. You know, magic is the ancient and absolute science of nature and her laws. A.L. Constant, The History of Magic, London, 1922. You know, magic is real. You know, if you believe in it, you guys, your belief. By magical definition, anything occurring naturally on Earth, whether plant, animal, element, stone, or metal, is alive. Anything radiating any degree of magical power whatsoever is perceived to be alive, although the manner in which different beings are alive is not identical. A stone may be alive, but even the most hardcore practitioner won't look for a pulse. You know, something can be recreated so that there are identical, indistinguishable specimens, and if that something is completely predictable and controllable, it lacks life. Lacking life, it contains no power, no innate magic, and is of little value to the magical practitioner. Ooh, what is magic? Magic is an individual action undertaken because the cosmos is not believed to be benevolent by nature, or at least not benevolent enough to that person. Maya Deren, Divine Horseman, The Living Gods of Haiti, London, 1953. So magic spells stem from the observation and consideration of an earthly paradox. Earth is beautiful, full of power and promise. Yet despite all that potential for fulfillment and happiness, individual existence is too often harsh, hungry, painful, limited, bitter, dangerous, and just plain miserable. So yes, life holds promise, but will your promise be fulfilled? Ooh, okay. Magic is the manipulation of Earth's naturally occurring powers in an attempt to provide the spellcaster with the success and happiness she or he desires. Magic spells are deliberate, specific attempts to harness and manipulate this energy, following some sort of formula or direction. Magic power is inherent on Earth. You know, people didn't create it, imagine it, or make it up. By various means, they learned how to use it. Magic spells are the result. Every magic spell was created by at least one person and probably refined and improved by thousands more. You know, it's kind of like a recipe, you guys. You know, you may add, you may substitute, you know. So, all right. Is magic evil? A very abridged secret history of magic. And I do kind of want to go through this here a little bit, so bear with me, you guys. Another issue must be addressed, as it is the rationale most frequently offered for centuries of concerted efforts to eliminate magic and persecute practitioners. And because it is an issue that prevents some from accessing their personal power. You think you'd like to cast a spell, but you're afraid. Is practicing magic evil? You know, a lot of us are taught that. According to general worldwide metaphysical wisdom, magic is a source of power. Power may be used benevolently or selfishly with varying degrees of malintent. Thus, it isn't the abstract practice of magic that is either good or bad. It's what each practitioner chooses to do with it. Yes, I'm a firm believer in that. Responsibility for one's actions and the consequences that stem from them rests securely on the individual practitioner's shoulders. Have evil people ever abused magic power? Sure. Just take a look at some of the hexes in this book. Is magic the only power capable of being abused? Of course not. How about financial power, political power, brute strength, nuclear power, and so on and so forth? In the sweep of history, abuse of magic power is far less responsible for the accumulated sufferings of the world than many other forms of abuse. There is a general rule accepted across the board that magicians reap what they sow. Cast an evil spell, ultimately receive evil back. Negative efforts attract negative returns at a return rate of 3, 7, or 9-fold. The standard rule of witchcraft is do what thou wilt, but harm none. Many modern witches are absolutely terrified of transgressing that rule. So then, why magic's bad reputation? Yes, there are legends of wicked sorcerers using their skills to hold others in thrall. However, if one examines those legends closely, it's usually revealed that the magical aspect is but a smokescreen for more reliable, conventional methods of coercion, like brute force and access to greater wealth. Although I suppose one could argue that magical prowess enabled their acquisition. Suffice it to say that any position of power in any profession is vulnerable to corruption and temptation. Let's talk about the average working magical practitioner. Magic is concerned with the immediate needs and desires of the practitioner in the here and now, or at least in the immediately foreseeable future. It is not about pie in the sky. The average magician doesn't want to wait for the possible rewards of the sweet hereafter. Magic is not for the passive. If you're willing to passively accede to your fate, the destiny others decide for you, whatever it is, why waste time, effort, or money casting a spell? Magic recognizes that Earth is full of gifts and the practitioner wants his or her share now. Magic is not the same as religion, although many religions have historically incorporated magic into their practice and still do. To put it mildly, magic is not an inherently reverential system. Magic demands that my will be done, not necessarily thine, or at least let's find a compromise. It is not a humble art. Magic possesses an intensely powerful, independent, egalitarian streak. An infinite quantity of magic power exists in the world. Enough for everyone. It's not like a scarce commodity where if I have it, you don't. Magic power is constantly being generated, although various modern practices, especially those that affect the natural environment, have diminished present quantities drastically. Similar to Pullman's His Dark Materials dust, the energy that each individual generates enters the universe where it affects and may be drawn upon by others. It is to everyone's benefit, except perhaps for that elite few already achieving their heaven on earth at the expense of others. That every individual creature or thing maximizes its potential for power. Furthermore, not all powers on earth are positive. Intense, extended misery, suffering, and oppression generate a negative energy that ultimately affects everyone badly. Diminishes baraka, and I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but it's Baraka. Obstructs magic power and limits everyone's access to it. In addition, the extinction of Earth's life forms, the loss of plant and animal species, eliminates every practitioner's potential access to their unique powers. Thus, general oppression and certain policies affecting the environment beyond any ethical considerations of right or wrong hamper the magician's ability to maximize personal power and the power of their spells. There is an inherent tension between the individual practitioner seeking power and authority of all kinds, most especially religious authority, which seeks to maintain its authority by retaining and controlling access to the divine as well as to tools, theology, and ritual. Religion frequently seeks to establish rules and boundaries about who has direct access to the divine and who bestows that access in the proper channels. Correct methods of worship and spiritual communication are prescribed, including what is permitted and what is not. If something has power, magicians usually want to try it out, regardless of whose tradition or faith it comes from, regardless of whether some authority says use is forbidden. Although magic is a conservative force in ways harking back to humanity's most primal arts, it also evolves endlessly adapting new materials, new traditions, and new methods as they appear. It is fluid and defiant and resists control. Fundamentalists of all kinds are inevitably opposed to magic, but this tension exists even among liberal faiths that prize their magical traditions, so-called magical religions. Here, inevitably, if I can even talk today, religious tradition stipulates a right way to practice magic. Knowledge may be reserved for the few, with methods reserved for those going through the proper authorized channels. Tension will exist between the officially initiated and independent practitioners. That tension between authority and magical practitioner is, I suspect, the real reason why secular rulers and religious authorities, frequently in conjunction with each other, attempt to brand magic and its practitioners as evil influences, a cancer among the submissive. Lack of obedience rather than lack of morality is what really draws down the wrath of authority. It is no accident that the Bible records that Israel's diviners, shamans, and necromancers were put away during the reign of its very first king, Saul. When the prophet Samuel warned the children of Israel that choosing a king would mean losing sons, daughters, land, and livestock, he neglected to mention that they would also lose their previous access to professional magical advice. Or perhaps he didn't bother to mention it because he was aware, as apparently was the king, that those magical services are so crucial that they are never entirely suppressed. In fact, King Saul himself is very soon shown in his hour of need, searching out one of those prescribed forbidden bone conjurers for a private consultation. I forget what her name was. Oh my goodness. And that story is just coming to me so clearly there, but I cannot think of what her name was. Because the Bible... Oh, okay. Here it goes. Has so often been used as an excuse to persecute and exterminate witches, it's significant to note how the Bible depicts the witches, or the witch of Endor, actually accomplishing her task. She's not painted as a stranger with strange talents or as a foreigner, but as a member of the community. Neither is she shown to be a fraud. She capably fulfills her royal client's request, nor is she depicted as malevolent or evil, but as a good-hearted woman, having accomplished the unhappy task that every fortune teller dreads of delivering really bad news. She comforts and feeds the distraught king, providing his last meal on earth at personal sacrifice. She kills a calf to feed him, considering that he is responsible for her loss of profession and presumably income. Fortune tellers, readers, and diviners hold an especially tense relationship with political authority. Historically, rulers, particularly the all-powerful, very much like to have the future revealed. They also typically wish to retain exclusive control over this information. Because others may use a diviner's skill to plot rebellion, historically, diviners have been imprisoned, or one is imprisoned for the ruler's private use while others are killed. To make matters worse, rulers usually desire to hear only the future as they envision it. A diviner can only read what entrails, shoulder blades, or other tools reveal. You see the need sometimes to keep one's powers secret. Although it frustrates us today, there's a very good reason Nostradamus recorded his prophecies in code. Wherever efforts have been made either to subjugate or convert another country or people, among the first acts traditionally taken is the attempted subversion or elimination of native shamans and traditional magical practices and practitioners. This is inevitably perceived as necessary for the pacification of the masses. This is not purely paranoia on the part of those seeking to assert and retain authority. Traditional shamans and magical practitioners are consistently in the forefront of resistance to oppressive authority. Because winners write history, the conventional historical explanation for this phenomenon is that shamans attempt to impede the path of progress. In the British struggle bus. In the British West Indies, historical records showed that Obeah, O-B-E-A-H, men and women, the local shamans, led slave revolts or attempted to do so. The Haitian Revolution, which ended slavery in that French colony and established the first independent black republic in the Western Hemisphere, was inaugurated at a Vaudouen ceremony dedicated to the spirit of iron, the material with the sole exception of menstrual blood, singularly most charged with magical power. Although as soon as native dictators proceeded to seize and consolidate power, not surprisingly, they too attempted to restrict or eliminate Vaudouen. This, not evil, power-hungry sorcerers is the hidden history of magic. In the United States, the prominent voodooists Marie Laveau and Mary Ellen Pleasant rescued and redeemed slaves, with Pleasant providing funding for John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry. Their male counterpart, Dr. John Montanet, was himself a free slave, as was Pleasant. Lest you think that this association between magic and social justice is limited to African influence, Native American shamans were and remain in the forefront of resistance to white encroachment, and traditional practitioners led desperate resistance to Christian domination of Europe. Who knows what attempts to defy limitation on women's magical and spiritual traditions were destroyed in the flames of the craze of the medieval witch burning. Virtually all the records that remain are filtered through the eyes of the torturers. My goodness, wow, that's deep and powerful right there. Although men suffer too, societies that suppress the magical arts will, as a rule, also limit women's voices and power, often with terrible brutality. Significantly, Significantly, King Saul, in need of a necromancer, requested that his minions find him a conjuring woman. Although it's since taken many twists and turns, magic ultimately derives from women's mysteries and the mysteries of creation. And the history of magic suppression cannot be separated from the history of women's oppression. Is magic evil? Well, if your perception is that sex is inherently evil, creation inherently tainted with sin, and that women constitute Earth's weakest link, then I guess you better lump magic in there with the rest of these moral dilemmas. If magic cannot be entirely divorced from religion, even less can it be separated from herbalism, the root of all traditional medicinal systems. Systems that for millennia have investigated botanical impact on health and above all on reproduction. Magic is the primordial human art and science. It stems from awe inspired by all earthly creation, but especially the mysteries of human creation. Every new human life is the ultimate act of magic. I love that so much right there. Conscious attempts at conception probably constitute the first magic spells, especially if you consider that our remote ancestors didn't understand pregnancy in the detached technical manner that we do today. Primordial religions venerated the divine in the form of human genitalia with joy, awe, and respect, not prudence, recognizing their capacity for sacred generation and creation. Although these symbols still survive in isolated pockets of official religion, magic remains suffused with sexual imagery in ways that may surprise us today. In efforts to maximize the blessings inherent in the powers of an anatomy, both male and female. However, magic stems from fascination on the part of both women and men with women's mysteries, the capacity to produce life where it didn't exist before, magic blood that flows on schedule from no wound and then is mysteriously retained, the links between that blood, fertility, women, the moon, and the sea. These were and remain conduits to the sacred for primordial magic and spirituality alike. So, wow, you guys, lots of information there. You know, please let me know what you think and if you have anything that you would like to add to this segment. I think next Wednesday we will pick up where do magic spells come from. Please let me know if you're excited about this segment. And like I said, you know, we will touch on some of the spells through this book, but I think it's important to learn, you know, before you proceed, you guys. And we can also talk about crystals. We can talk about herbs, you know, anything in these witchy wisdom segments, you guys. So, you know, your voice is important. Your thoughts, you know, they're important, and I would like to hear them. And if you did enjoy this first part here and you're excited to go on this journey with me of knowledge and exploration, you know, please leave me a comment and let me know. I love hearing from you guys. I do take the time to respond and, you know, answer any questions that there may be to the best of my ability. And if you did enjoy this, please smash the heck out of that like button, that thumbs up button, give it the old razzle dazzle pizzazzle there, and please subscribe if you feel led to. I would love and appreciate that so very much, you guys. You know, you guys are a joy to me, a blessing to me, and I want to be a source of joy and blessing to you in return. And if you do decide to subscribe, make sure you tap that bell icon so you get the ding ding when I upload new content. And please share, because that does help me grow, that does help me get out there. You guys, you are so wonderful and so amazing, and I love and appreciate each and every single one of you. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you, blessed be, namaste, and goodbye.